Okay, good evening, everybody. First of all, even before we start the meeting, I just would like to say that we are having phone issues here at the town office today. We do have a technician coming to look at it tonight, so I can't say whether or not they will be fixed for tomorrow or not. And so if you could bear with us for a few days. We're on top of it and we're trying to get it fixed. Thanks. First of all, we would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Robinson Superior Treaty Territory and that the land on which we gather is a traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis. Can I have approval of the agenda for the open session? Anybody's good? No add-ons? Any disclosures of interest? Hearing no disclosures of interest, we don't have any delegations. Do we have any questions for question period?
Not receive any questions.
Not receive any. Okay. Move right into it. Minutes of the previous meeting, resolution 63. -24. Moved by Councillor Bryson, second by Councillor Bergeau, that the minutes of the council and committee of the whole meeting held February 27th, 2024 be accepted as circulated. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Committee of the whole recommendation, business arising. Resolution 64-24. Moved by Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Bergeau. The council received the council expense and remuneration report for the year ended December 31st, 2023. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Counts for payment. Resolution 65-24. Moved by Councillor Bergeau, seconded by Councillor McGrath, that checks issued on the general bank account in the month of February 2024 in the amount of $542,925.15 for general accounts payable be approved and ratified. Discussion?
I had one question, but I know our treasurer's been sick, so maybe I can just forward it to her.
Okay.
It was just a question with regards to a Cloud Darling Limited check. I'm sure that's project-based.
The bigger one?
Yeah,
167,832.
167,832. Do we know what that's for?
That's the arena.
That's the arena project? Okay. And that's under grant?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. That's the only one I really was worried about.
The only one that popped up nice.
Yeah,
Right. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I know. I couldn't remember which project that was for.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Resolution 66-24. Moved by Councillor McGrath, second by Councillor Bryson, the bank debits issued on the general bank account in the month of February 2024. In the amount of $58,963.63 for payroll be approved and ratified. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. There's no unfinished business, no other business, so we'll move right into the committee of the whole portion of the meeting. So department reports. First up, Director of Operations reports status update.
So there's just a lot of work going on for the recycling.
Yeah,
We have to catch up because we were just added to the transition list, so you'll see more on that later on the agenda. As far as the handy transit goes, that auction will close tomorrow at 1.
Okay.
So at this point, it is at 19,800, which does not meet the reserve. So I need direction from you on whether or not we're going to accept that. I mean, and it could go up last minute before it closes at 1, but I need direction from you to whether or not we're going to accept anything below that 40,000.
I'm going to say no.
Like-
But I would then say, if you want to relist it on Gov, that's fine, but I'm going to suggest you maybe put a listing together for Auto Trader.
Just a bad time to list it right now, or would it be better?
It's a very specialized bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there is interest on, I mean, there's 12 bids on it.
Yeah,
But they're based on the questions that I'm being asked about it, it doesn't sound like they're going to be using it as a lift.
Yeah.
They're going to convert it back into that cargo.
Type, right.
Yeah,
we did have one interested party though that was willing to pay more, right? That didn't come through.
that's, well, yes. I'm not sure how that individual, the first round, even found out that our base amount, our reserve amount was 40,000. Because he jumped from like 7,000 all the way up to that 40. And the question posed on what the reserve amount was, I consulted with GovDeals to find out how to answer that. And he suggested that I not reveal the number. But somehow it magically appeared at 40. But then that individual was actually from Kentucky. So I'm not sure what happened there, but he backed out.
No, I was just wondering, I mean, if there was real interest at that price, then it'd be worthwhile to wait and
Mhm.
repost it.
Yeah, because when I read your report, Tammy, I looked back on a couple of different sites, and Auto Trader has moved a couple for more than 20.
Okay.
They just sold a 2021. Now, let's be honest, that's 4 years newer for 120,000. So I can't in my head wrap around that 20,000's enough.
Especially when the blue book is, what's the blue book on that, or?
Probably Blue Book was, I have to back over my notes, but it was somewhere, when we adjusted the mileage, was it not somewhere around 30?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Seems to me,
So,
because we were working with the wrong mileage, but when we adjusted it, I think that day we looked, it was around 30.
so significantly higher.
I mean, and typically you get some good movement in the last day.
Okay.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
We're still quite a ways away from 40. So that's why I need to know if you're.
Yeah, but I mean, I like,
So are we willing to accept anything around the 30,000, or you have to meet that 40 before you're willing to let it go?
I could live with 30.
Yeah, if it's matching that blue book price, I'd be okay with that.
Ben?
Yeah, it's 17.
Yeah, that's, you can't buy anything.
yeah, I'm good with 30.
You're right, it is a specialized vehicle, but it's also one that smaller communities are looking to pick up for their communities, it's not like it's not needed.
What's the mileage on that?
You remember what I told you?
144,
I thought so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like without my notes, without my binder here, I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah, I was way low, because I think I told you at the meeting it was around 80,
Yeah.
and I thought it was around.
No, then when she looked, it was, and when I changed that, it definitely dropped the price in Kelly Blue Book.
Okay, so if we're around 30, we'll take that, okay.
We'll try and,
And then the elevated water storage was inspected last year. We jumped on board with other communities so we could share the travel. So, but in that recommendation, we're already making plans for the repairs to the maintenance repairs in the year 2026.
So that'll be the next budget.
so just, maybe you can answer, what would be a small repair to the interior?
So in the report that we got, it says that it's a glass lining inside
Yeah.
the elevated tank. And there's like 3 small dots that have chipped away. So they recommend fixing that so that the corrosion doesn't lift the glass lining. We seal it with the proper material, and it should be cleaned every 7 to 8 years. It should be drained and cleaned, scrubbed. And then the other thing that they mentioned was the hatch door on the top of the tower. The insulation is missing from the inside of the lid. So they would just replace that. So minor repairs, but just staying on top of the maintenance issues.
And that's every 5 years you have to do the water storage tank?
We have to inspect
Right.
it every 5 years, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to number 2, the blue box transition report.
So it's kind of confusing because when you opt out, it kind of gives you the wrong impression, but
Yeah.
opting out is actually handing over the whole, pardon me, the whole operation to circular materials. So if we opted in, we would continue doing the collection in town, only we would be contractors to circular material. But we don't have the equipment, nor do we have the manpower. And in 2026, when full legislation takes place, they're taking over anyways.
Okay.
Unless we make a bid on the RFP through the RFP process to be a contractor to them. So it makes sense just to opt out at this point and just hand it all over to them.
Yep.
And they'll come to town and do the collection at curbside. And and then in the year 2026, when full legislation comes into play, it's possible that more materials will become eligible for recycling. And then it also states that recycling would be collected on a bi-weekly basis. So we'll continue to see changes as the years involved, but for this year, we need a resolution stating that we're going to opt out and we just hand over the operation to circular material.
Makes sense.
I agree. Can I just ask one question? Can you just go back over this financial impact and explain this to me? The Schreiber will continue to share the cost of ineligible materials at the convenience depot. So we're talking about, we're going to still share the cost of garbage.
No.
Oh.
This is strictly about recycling.
Okay,
So, under the legislation, the commercial sector is not included
commercial.
in,
Okay.
recycling. Never has been, probably won't be. But we have the convenience depot that's located at the landfill that is going to transition from what it is today to a convenience depot. And businesses can take their recycling
Okay.
material to that depot, but it is ineligible material. So we're gonna have to pay for the removal and processing of that material. So whatever is in those bins circular material says that 25% of that is just going to be labeled as ineligible. So we're always gonna have that cost. 25% based on the numbers, and the calculating means that they have, deemed acceptable. We can negotiate that down to a 4%, but that's Terrace Bay's negotiation because they own the landfill.
So does this give us any idea of what our portion of that cost is going to be, or we almost have to wait till we get going to see what it's going to be?
There are some predictions in some of the
Okay.
material that they've given us.
The bottom line is though that it's less than we pay today.
Absolutely, much less. Yes.
So that segues into my next question then. The 2024 operating budget for the landfill, has a lot of this stuff been taken into account to adjust those financial numbers?
No, I have not had
Okay.
a conversation with
Okay.
them yet.
No, that's okay.
And that's because we only just recently were made aware that we would be.
That we
allowed
would be.
Very
certificates.
new,
So it was
yeah.
big unknown for a long time.
Time, right, okay, fair enough. Well, I would agree with your recommendation.
That's a huge win for us.
Yeah, bring it. Okay, Director of Operations, for the intake screens at Cook Site Dam.
So the last time these were replaced was, according to the treasurer, approximately 10 years ago. And at that time, they just used regular steel to encase the stainless steel screening. So of course, the casing has all deteriorated, so we're due for new ones. We did budget 14,000 for this in our capital budget, but the prices come in at 10,457, so it is lower. But it is anticipated that stainless steel is going to be looking at an increase in April, so they recommend that we approve this expense now. But having said that, there's also quite a lead time to wait for stainless steel to be available. But if we can lock in at this price, then we won't be affected by the price increase.
But the $14,000 that was included in the draft capital budget was not approved yet.
Not yet.
I've seen the screen. I would advise to move forward. I wasn't aware that we had a budget of 14 grand. These are coming in 20 or 10. I mean, if there's a lift or two left in them, and that's going to be it. And without the screens,
And if they get stuck in there,
without the screens, it's, I mean, forget it. You do need the screens. I mean,
A must-have situation.
I've seen them screens, get sucked in like bent and everything. And the nuts weren't stainless steel on these ones.
Mhm.
They rot off.
Yeah.
And some of them are in rough shape now.
Voice of it.
And right,
You know what I'm gonna say? Until we pass a capital budget, my answer is no. But if you guys think that, if you've seen the screens and you think they're in rough shape and you guys believe that this is a must, then I guess if you approve it now, you need to worry about how you're gonna pay for it after. Just as long as we all know that. I'm happy they came in at last. I'm not gonna argue with you about it, but
no, and to lock in at that price, we gotta do it. We gotta do it. I would do it now for sure. One thing for sure, we know the price won't go down. And we do need them.
Yeah, I just don't want to see any problems downstream.
And, we'll, like you said, we'll roll up our sleeves of the budget and we'll get it done.
Okay.
Yeah. One way or another, we'll get it done.
Right.
So we're good with that then?
Yeah.
Director of Operations report, awful expense request.
So this is a follow-up from the problem we just addressed. We fixed the problem, now we're just gonna take care of the sludge.
Yeah.
Makes absolute sense.
Once we take the dead sludge out of there, then they can
Yeah,
bag again
Yeah.
and the process is back to normal. We're also getting some complaints from residents at that end of the smell, and it's directly related to the dead sludge.
okay.
Can you explain what septic sludge is exactly?
So your process down at the plant is basically bugs, and the air keeps the bugs alive and they break down the sewage. So when it goes septic, the bugs are dead and nothing is breaking down the sewage anymore. So it starts to smell.
Okay, so we had this problem last year and we had to bring in
We have to
sludge.
bring in active sludge,
Active
that's
sludge.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah. I asked if that was going to be necessary with this issue, and the process in the clarifier is still good. The bugs are still working away. It's just the sludge that has, that was not able to be pumped out because of the issues that we've had with the sludge pump.
Yeah.
But that's the stuff that's dead.
And the sludge pump is fixed. This
It
is
is.
just an after,
Yeah.
and this is coming out of operating at that.
Yes.
Has that got anything to do with the blower too?
Well, the
The small
blower,
part?
yeah, a small part. The blower definitely encourages the bugs and keeps the bugs healthy. It's a struggle right now to keep the bugs healthy, to keep them doing their work. And as soon as we can get the new blowers online, then we're gonna be optimized, but at this point, they're not overly healthy, so when you can't move the sludge as quickly as you want to, it doesn't take much for them to die off, and then it becomes septic.
This contractor that pumps
Yes.
is he the only one that we look at?
No, we have looked at Aqua Truck, they have their own pump truck. We've also looked at Nipigon and we've looked at Thunder Bay. Right now, it's about availability.
Okay,
Bill's, like, when was the last communication with them? Because I believe they are back at the mill.
Oh, okay. I've been sitting on this for about 2 weeks now, waiting for council meeting. So he actually emailed me today to find out if it's been approved yet.
Yeah, because we were looking at it, increased pricing, but really, but that kind of all that. So
Oh, good to know. Okay.
all right, that's good then.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good with that then. Tim?
Okay.
Okay, number 5, Director of Operations report on the donation of chairs. Corrected.
That is basically a win-win. If we declare the chairs, because all of those chairs currently are sitting in that old youth room at the arena. And if we can declare them surplus, donate them to the church will get good use out of them. But if we need them, we can borrow them back. The priest is willing to build a shed to house the chairs. It's a win-win.
How many chairs are we looking at, Tim?
There's almost 400 of them. So they take up a lot of space.
probably never been pulled out of that room since they were put in.
Well, not so true. We use them a lot for Heritage Days. And because Heritage Days are scattered events throughout town, they have the folding chairs that they put out sometimes. They've been using those stackable
The
chairs.
staff was,
We
yeah.
definitely don't take chairs out of the hall to use outside.
Okay. I'm gonna bring it.
Yeah, definitely. Number 6, the annual summary report for the drinking water system.
So that's just your annual report that we have to make public every year. There's
Mhm.
nothing that really stands out.
No.
In the
any-
report?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if someone wanted to get a copy of this, I mean, this might be a good place to ask, where would they find this?
We generally
Here?
post it on the website, I believe.
It's on the
Okay.
website, and there's a binder in this office and a binder at the library that both have copies in them.
So that we could actually provide copies to interested people. Perfect.
I'm just looking at, I have a question on the conclusion, section 5, page, the last page. And, it was, there was an exceedance. And there was no corrective action, so there's 2 instances where there was no corrective action.
Oh, that's the HAAs.
Yeah.
That's, there's nothing to do because it's a running annual average. So by the time the numbers actually come in and your average is reported, the problem has kind of gone away, but that all will be rectified when we put that smart meter in and we can stop pre-chlorinating.
Okay. All right, thanks, Jackie.
So it's
Okay.
available on our website, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's number 7 too.
Yes,
Nothing jumped out on that.
right.
Okay. And number 8 is just, shouldn't say just, it's our permit to take water submission. Got any questions for Tammy on that?
No. So we're still good at Cooks Lake.
And we hope it comes up this spring.
It will.
I can't see it being any different than any other.
Positive vibes, positive vibes.
Well, not gonna be a huge runoff, so.
I know.
Yeah, no, that might so far, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 9. The fire department activity report for January and February. See, we got our fire chief with us now too. We do.
Camera range,
But you've been very busy.
Very good.
yeah, that's,
Watched. There were a lot of positive comments on how quickly and how completely you reacted to that fire. Don't know if you've seen a lot of that online, but there was really a lot of positive comments.
Seen a little bit of it, yes. So, and so is the department, and, the mayor, I think, sent an email, and that was forwarded to everybody on the Schreiber and Terrace Bay departments, same day.
Yeah, I also, you're probably aware of it, I also sent email straight to fire chief Bowen and Terrace Bay also.
Mhm.
yeah, so bad day to have a fire and a bad time of night to have a fire.
Yes,
It had gone
Worst
from a
conditions,
nice
yeah.
day to -22
With
Right.
very
windy.
quickly with a strong north wind.
Strong
and-
wind,
And
yeah.
it was not a fun night.
No,
As mentioned in the report there, we mentioned the water plant and water tower performed fairly well.
Yeah,
We had no issues there. We were checking on it frequently by phoning the plant operators. The one thing that isn't in there, that I didn't realize till after got its good first workout that night was the 3 years ago, we replaced the SCBA compressors, in the cascade systems for filling air packs. Got rid of that little tiny portable machine we used to use and put in an actual full-size one. And the machine performed perfectly. It was able to, refill air packs and air bottles at a phenomenal rate that would have been impossible for us a couple of years ago. So,
yeah,
and that's good, right? That keeps your firefighters safe, because that was windy. Like that
Yes.
smoke would have been blowing.
yeah, without being able to provide them that compressed air to breathe, then it would have just, stand back. And all
Yeah.
operations. So, and then the amount of ice that night too, I think we we stripped the fire hall of most protective equipment and gloves, balaclavas and things like that. We just went through a phenomenal amount of those, and we did spend a significant stockpile of our foam protecting the house next door. Have to be replaced at some point this year.
Right.
So,
Was there a lot of smoke damage to the house next door? And I know there was some,
surprisingly, no. We kept walking around that house every 30 minutes and looking inside to make sure nothing had gotten in there. And other than a little bit of siding damage and a couple little singes here and there, it
that's amazing.
escaped very well.
Not much room.
There isn't much room between the two, and that is amazing.
No, there's only about 8 feet between
Yeah.
the eaves at the back. So,
Job all done for sure. Any other questions on the report?
Just what your plans are for 8 open positions for firefighters. This represents 1/3 of the department. That's got to be worrisome now.
it is getting worrisome. Also mentioned in there is the closure of the mill. The 4 members of the department that were employed there. So far one has left town. I don't know what the other 2 have long-term plans for. And of the remaining people, 5 of them require significant training this year, which we'll have to plan for. Which means they're as untrained, I can't really use those people. That's something like, say, that host fire. I can't send them inside without their training courses.
No.
So it is starting to leave us short. As far as plans for solving it,
Yes.
I wish I had one. If I could solve the volunteer problem, I'd probably, quite frankly, be rich, but I think a lot of towns are experiencing the same thing right now, talking to Nipigon and Marathon.
I think you've solved it in the interim. Just working together. I mean, with
other
Terrace Bay,
departments.
with Rossport, with Bay Spot. And just knowing Marathon and Nipigon and Red Rock, and everybody is like, I've never seen anything like it before. Like, everybody has got everybody's back, and that's what it's all about. So I'm not saying that we do need the people power here. But the way you guys are set up, everybody should look at the way the fire departments work together. I really think, I really like that.
No, the Rossport and Pace Flat thing has helped significantly.
Yeah,
If you come up with a plan though, Jan, and you feel like you need the assistance of mayor and council, I'm going to encourage you to come back. For sure. This is a really important part of our community and keeping our community safe. So,
it's huge. Okay, number 10, Fire Chief report on the Thunder Bay District Municipal League resolution. Recommended.
No real recommendation there. It's kind of information on that Thunder Bay District Municipal League thing on having alternating or flashing lights on
Mhm.
stop slow paddles at construction zones.
Yeah.
And I at the very end of that report there, I've given kind of a recommendation as to why I think it's worded that it's optional. So that
That makes
if you're
sense.
standing there with a paddle and your light breaks or the battery dies, you're not left with something that no longer meets the legal definition of a stop sign.
right.
Yeah,
So I think it's worded that way on purpose.
but the wording, I mean, I think that being optional, it means nothing, because I've never seen a light on any sign on the highway, so they're opting out, period. So it really means nothing. It's got no teeth at all.
I think so. Now, the other thing that I will say is kind of a parallel is you look at the stop signs on school bus arms. They've added the lights to those several years ago, and now everybody has them. since these changes only came in 2021.
Yeah,
I think we've got to wait for the manufacturers to catch up and start coming up with something.
yeah, well, I mean, I took a picture when I was in Wisconsin last summer. And it was an actual LED light on a stop sign. And, driving down the highway, there was some road work. And you could see that light. It was broad daylight, bright sunny day, and you could see that light from quite far away. So it was effective. And looking at the light, it just seemed like it was a magnetic LED light, which would be easily replaceable. So I don't think it's a big problem for any construction work to have that light on the stop sign. So that's my opinion. And that was the idea of the resolution, is to have that. I mean, we get the government to change the wording on that. It wouldn't be hard. I mean, the wording could say, if something breaks, take immediate steps to replace it. And that's better and much better than optional, in my opinion. It'd be handy if they're just a small battery powered light. It'd be easy to have one of a replacement of if somebody struck or with the flag. I mean, the whole idea is to improve the safety of our highways across the province, and it's a small thing, but I think it's very valid. Just being right.
No, it's good though. So given that and given what Jan has said about the changing that word, are we thinking, Mayor, are you thinking that this is something we want to,
You already did.
we already did?
Yeah.
Last meeting.
Okay, so
But
we're good?
it's good to understand the reasoning behind
Why it is.
why it is the way it is. So,
Yeah,
And we've had several members of the fire department in the last few years ask or suggest similar things.
Yeah,
But now that there's an actual standard in the MTO books to actually what the lights should look like as far as size and flashing pattern, it's something we've been looking at.
yeah.
Okay, so move on to number 11, municipality of Calvin. Fire chief report on the municipality of Calvin. That's just for information.
well, we asked Jan to have a look at that, right? Again, to have a look at that resolution.
There are some good asks there as far as asking the federal level of government for funding for wildfires. And payments to the provincial government, you know, and even making available some sort of federal resources to them. The only thing I'm cautious on in there is the request for a federal level fire administration or emergency management agency, which would put another level of oversight about the township. You know, usually with those type of oversight agencies in Canada, funding doesn't come attached to that, but there's a lot of regulations usually to follow. So it's kind of a be careful what you ask for thing, I think. If that were to happen, there might be a lot more standards that we have to follow.
So given that, then do we want to? Are we going to take any action on that Calvin resolution?
That's
I'm guessing no from what I'm reading with Jan's report.
probably, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Fire chief recommendation.
Okay, fire chief rescue truck repairs. Additional repair costs be part of the 2024 capital budget.
When do you expect to have a final number, Jan? Just a, it's
I
just a
can-
curiosity
I
question.
can give them a call. They are waiting on two minor pieces to arrive that were back ordered from Cummings. to be put on as part of the turbocharger system on the truck. So they haven't sent me the final invoice on it yet. I can phone them and ask for
It's okay.
where it's at for a number. Now, I will say, in addition to the recommendation that it's planned for in the capital budget, we did sell the previous rescue truck for 30,000 last year, so there is that money sitting there available as well that we can put into this truck's repairs. So
Rosalie, when do you need final numbers? When does admin need final numbers for, because we're looking at when we're presenting the capital budget.
So the capital budget was originally planned to be brought to council 2 meetings ago. And that was the meeting that we were anticipating we would only have 3 members of council present. So I suggested we put it off for a week. And then our treasurer has been ill.
Yes.
So it's been delayed again. We had it initially planned to have it tonight, but with the treasurer not being around to finalize it,
Right.
we couldn't. So we're going to get it to you as soon as we can. The anticipation on the original budget calendar was that we would have both the operating and the capital budgets approved by the end of April. And we're still hoping to meet that.
Okay. So that gives Jan some type of idea of timeline of when you're gonna need this final number from him.
And I mean, the capital budget's not going to have final numbers from any of the projects.
No,
So
but
it's
As an idea.
Right.
A better, okay. Right, thanks, Jan.
Okay, the acting CEO, report on the license for the community hall.
So this is kind of a simple report. They pay us $175 a month, the facility or not. And if you remember getting the printout that was pulled together about the costs versus the cost of operating our facilities versus the rental revenue, there were several months where the only rental revenue was $175, and that's this.
Okay.
So whether they hold court or not, they pay us $175 a month. And I did speak to them about what they would pay in the event of additional use requirements, and they need to go ahead and whatever is in our user fee bylaw that's current at the time, they will pay that for any additional time.
Definitely, right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
okay. We're good with it. Number 14, parking bylaw amendments report.
So there are two parking bylaws that we administer in the township. One is a regular parking bylaw that deals with all of our normal parking requirements. And the other one deals only with disabled persons parking spaces.
Right.
So the bylaw enforcement officer issued a ticket recently for someone parked in a marked disabled persons parking space at the restaurant Rosie and Josie's. And the person wanted to fight the ticket. And when the bylaw enforcement officer looked at the bylaw, she realized that it wasn't a designated spot. The bylaw has a schedule attached to the back of it that lists the designated spaces. One is at the splash pad, one is at the post office, the arena and the rec hall, the library, the medical center, and Costas. Rosie's and Josie's is not there. The churches are not there. The ones at our municipal office are not there. There is a spot at the Napa Hertz place, but it's closed anyway.
Right.
And then we weren't sure if there was Cindy at the Legion. There should be. So.
Yeah, there is.
There is, there's a sign on the building,
Yeah.
but it's gravel, so they don't have a mark.
We need to amend the bylaw to designate the spots so that we can enforce. We have withdrawn the ticket that was written for the Rosie and Josie space, just because if it goes to court, we won't be able to succeed. Then with respect to the regular traffic bylaw parking matter, one of the issues that has been a bone of contention, for lack of a better phrase, with our public works department is the ticketing of vehicles that are parked on the road overnight that interfere with snow clearing. Our bylaw currently says that the prohibited times are between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Right.
And that means the bylaw officer has to get up in the middle of the night when it's cold and go outside, and we were wondering if we could move the start time back from 2 a.m. to something at a more reasonable hour. If she issues a ticket at 2 AM and puts it on a car, chances are that car is not gonna get moved. But if she puts a ticket on the car at 10 o'clock at night, the homeowner might see it and move the vehicle in time for the snow clearing the next day. So that's the part of the rationale. Partly it's to ease the strain on the bylaw enforcement officer for getting up in the middle of the night in the cold winter. But the other idea is that it might actually help the enforcement. The purpose of the enforcement is so that the vehicles aren't there to interfere with the snow clearing. And this way they might actually get out and move it.
The only question I have in regards to that is, do we have an idea on the cost to replace all the signs we've got up? Can we take the 2 AM, just scratch off and add a 10 sticker, or do we have to add brand new signs?
I would have to check on that. I believe you would have to have them signed.
I'm good with going.
As the bylaw numbers also.
And it's a little
The
bit,
bylaw number would stay the same.
It would.
ends a little bit early to me, like,
I,
people still have company sometimes at 10 o'clock, like earlier. Fine, but I just think 10 is a little bit.
Too early?
I think small.
Change all the signs around town. We gotta, I mean, it was put in there, I mean, was there talk about when the town had all the bars? Sure, that was a little bit of talk, but that's not why it was 2 o'clock and 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the morning, standard operating procedures for every small town around here that has snow removal. I'm with Benji, 10 o'clock is way too early. If I'd change it to anything, it would be 1. I mean, what the heck's if I change it to anything, it'd be 1. I'm not gonna.
Is a big enough gain to
Yeah,
justify changing all the signs. I'm with Benji, I think it's too early.
If somebody's over at your house watching a
Yeah.
hockey game or 2
They could be
people
there.
and they gotta park on the road.
They could be there till, they could be there
Midnight
till,
mass.
Midnight mass.
Yeah.
Midnight shopping.
yeah, they could be there till midnight or Monday morning.
I mean. And we just got, I can't remember, 12 to 15 signs last year. With the 2 to 7. Albeit it'd be a little fix if you just do a sticker to the sign, but
I don't believe that would apply for prosecuting. You have to have an official sign.
Really?
I'm pretty sure you would have to change the sign. I used to have an agreement with the city of Thunder Bay when I worked in Meebing that their sign, they would manufacture signs for us through there. They have an in-house sign production, a lot cheaper than buying other signs. You might want to look into that for other signs.
Yeah.
Like if you don't decide not to do this, that's fine, but you may want to look into that for.
Did we have a lot of violations on parking 2 to 7?
not this year.
Not this year, that's like years.
No, I mean,
No, but I'll tell you what,
I say that all kidding.
I think the actions that the bylaw officer took in going out and giving warnings made the biggest dent in any of this.
I don't know. It did and it didn't. It didn't and didn't. But I was going to say, if we have a normal winter, she has to, normal snowfall winter, she would have to go out 3-4 times in December, hopefully, and people do learn. People do learn. I mean, she went out this time and she put out warning letters between Christmas. It worked, but I mean, everybody knows I'm up in a boat early in the morning. I go a boat and I count 8 or 9 cars every morning that I mean, you don't want to ticket them with the lack of snow or anything, but I mean, but you have to go out, and it doesn't have to be consistently all the time, but you go out the 3 or 4 or 5 times the people will learn at the start of the winter, a normal winter, and they won't park there. That's the way it's just the cycle it goes in. But I agree with what she did. I'm not saying anything bad about it to Anne Marie.
I thought that was great.
No, I think it was great. It was great and it helped for a bit, but geez, there's a tent trailer set up on the side of the road now, so I mean. You know.
Yeah, so if you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do a tour, you can accomplish a lot, is what you're saying. 6 o'clock, you can still cover a lot of ground. And see who's out there parked, in violation.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point, like, who the heck wants to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 30 below and you're only gonna
Right,
get 2
tickets.
tickets or something. You know, I see her, I feel it, but
Yeah.
it's part of the job, really.
Good.
The other part, I agree with you, so you just do the homework and get all that. Okay, the police report, the police service board report.
Voice.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if he's not here now, he'll probably be in the movie. Yeah, so the OPP detachment for this area covers a very large geographic area. And so when we started talking, and this was prior to me being here, but I do recall the discussions because at the time I was working with Red Rock. It was decided, or it was proposed, that there should be 2 detachment boards for this area just because the geography is so big. So that had to be approved by the province because the legislation only allows for 1 per detachment. So that application went in some time ago and everybody sort of forgot about it. And then last summer we got a letter saying it's been approved. You can have 2 detachment boards in this area. Now, before we can actually establish them, the regulation has to be passed, and apparently it's been drafted, and apparently it's going to be passed in March, so soon. And this is in anticipation of the change in legislation that's happening April 1st. The old Police Services Act will die, and the new Community Safety and Policing Act, which was actually passed in 2019, will come into effect. So in preparation, getting ready to have this board, we should pass a resolution agreeing to having a joint police service board with Terrace Bay. We need to appoint a council representative to the new board, and Terrace Bay has already appointed their mayor. We need to undertake recruitment of the community representatives that we get to appoint. And then after April 1st, I believe we need to pass a bylaw to establish the board, but we'll get information from the province on that, whether the regulation is enough.
And whether we need to do it in partnership with Terrace Bay or separate from Terrace Bay, right?
When we did it in the Lakehead, for the Lakehead Service Board, we both passed, all 4 municipalities passed the identical bylaw, except they changed the name,
Okay.
right? And then the mayor. So I have drafted a bylaw and sent it to John. We would have to come up with a name. So I don't know if there already is a North Shore Police Service Board, or we'd have to come up with a name. So when I put the draft bylaw to Mr. Hall, I called it PRISKE, because that's a historic township that both Terrace
Yeah.
Bay and Schreiber, but I mean, we don't have to do that. I just threw it in there as a placeholder. We can call it the Schreiber Terrace Bay Board. I mean, it doesn't have to be a short form. So, but those decisions will come if we have to pass the bylaw.
Okay.
So we do get to appoint 1 council member seat for each of the 2 municipalities and 2 community representatives, one appointed by each. So a community representative is just what it sounds like, somebody from your community who wants to be on the police services board. And the ones we had for the Lakehead board were typically retired police officers who had an interest in carrying on. And then the province appoints someone, and that application process takes a long time. So many municipalities have police services boards with vacancies on them. for the provincial appointment, and they're going through a very vigorous vetting process, better than they used to. Partly because of a problem they had in Thunder Bay. They appointed someone to the board, and then somebody came and said, that person is against Native communities because they published this back in, and then they unappointed that person and had to go through the process again. So it does take a long time. So we would put forward an advertisement to the community saying, if there's anybody interested, this is what the kind of work is. Mayor Mullins did provide me with a copy of the advertisement that was put out by Kenora for their police services board, so we'll probably piggyback on that language and.
I believe Terrace Bay is putting that out tomorrow on their social media. I think.
So how do you explain that to maybe member? What's her role on board, or what's the role of the board?
So the role of the board, it's not as, you don't have any control over the budget of the OPP. You do have a say in the recruitment of a new detachment commander, should there need to be one. Participate in the interview process and the vetting process to get a new detachment commander. When you have a police services board, typically, well, under the old legislation, the OPP would agree to do more bylaw enforcement than they would if you didn't have a board. I don't know whether that will carry on under the new legislation or not, but it's if you don't have a police services board, you usually have a community policing committee that gets information from the police and then share it with council. This is more, you have a right, you don't have a right to tell them what to do, but you can say, this is an area of interest we have that, would you please have a speed trap on such and such a road, and those kinds of things. You have a more direct relationship with the detachment.
Yeah, so there'd be more communication to community from the OPP.
Right. And the OPP get the benefit of, feedback, direct feedback from the township representatives and more importantly, the community representatives. So in circumstances where there's issues of racism, for example, there would be more feedback and more. Now we did in the operating budget, we threw a number in there that I had used for the Lakehead Police Service Board in 2019. And the Lakehead Police Services Board was set up in a very expensive way. So the province requires you to pay the provincially appointed representative for attending meetings. Back in the day, it was $100 minimum. So you don't want to have one person at the table paid and nobody else paid, unless like the community member should be paid if the provincial rep is paid. Now, the council members, it depends on what your policies are in your own community. If Terrace Bay pays its members to attend meetings, great. If they don't, they don't. That can be worked out by us. In the Lakehead Service Board, they had a really expensive payment method. It was $300 per meeting per person. Plus they paid mileage to get to the meetings. Plus they sent 2 representatives to Southern Ontario to a conference that was about $7,000 each. So I threw that number in the budget just as a placeholder, but we will be trimming it back once we know what we're going to do. Like between Terrace Bay and Schreiber, we have to determine how this board is going to be established in terms of its functionality. The board, once it's there, it needs a secretary. I was the secretary for the Lakehead one. We had to pass operating bylaws and we had to have certain policies in place.
Yes.
So there will be some work to do. That has to be done together with Terrace Bay. So what we need to do is appoint, we need to pass a resolution agreeing to have the police service board. That may have been done back when Mr. Packanainen put the application in, but
We should probably redo it then.
so pass a resolution. Well, I guess we wouldn't have because we didn't know we could. We didn't know we could have the 2 separate, so it would have been premature.
So I think we're all in agreement with that, right?
We need to appoint a council representative. Then and undertake recruitment for the community representative. Those are the 3 things we need to do right now. Well, soon.
And what role will Pace Flat have in this?
So that is unclear to me because the regulation definitely says it's the three of us.
Yeah.
But it also says it doesn't provide in the regulation that they get to appoint someone to the board. So, they may opt out and not participate, or we may decide that maybe a community representative should be somebody from Facebook. But that's up to how we formulate.
Yeah, Phase Plat hasn't responded to any of the, I believe that they have opted out.
Okay.
Um, From my understanding, if they want to come in, they can come in. There's room on, there would be room to, for a representative from them, from my understanding, if they, but, I don't think you're going to see them come. They have, the First Nations have other options.
Under the current legislation, which is still in effect until April 1st, another week and a half or 2 weeks, there was no opportunity for First Nations involvement. I mean, provincial legislation and First Nations are governed by the federal government, but
Right.
in the new legislation, it does specifically recognize participation by First Nations.
No, I mean, if they,
And I'm not interested in being appointed to the board. If you're happy staying on there, then I've got enough on my plate. I don't know about you guys, but
It makes sense to me that if it's the mayor of Terrace Bay who's been appointed, which it is, then we should probably appoint our.
yes, perfect.
yeah, no, I'm not.
And you're willing to take that on?
Yeah, I'll take that on and, we'll get it up and running. We'll get it up and running and, we'll get the advertisement out there for
Community member?
community member. And what it is, there'll be up to 15 hours. I gotta get a police check done, criminal check, police check, whatever you call it nowadays. And there's 15 hours of e-learning. It's all gonna be e-learning and actually that'll be for the community rep too, and they're not trying to discourage anybody. But I mean, I'm gonna do hopefully do the training down in the end room. And we'll go from there. We put, like Rosalie said, we put some money in the budget, so we can probably trim that budget back a little and save some money there. Because I can't see too much more happening in this year other than what I just said.
Just setting everything up.
Just trying to set everything up and then Sergeant Moscow will be working with me and Paul and the community reps once they get on board and we'll go from there. And if they give us a provincial rep, that'll be all the more power to it anyway. There's your.
Okay. Thanks for that, Rosalie. So you have direction from us.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, the next report is Ms. Dargaville's, and what she really wants to make everyone understand is that the two meetings, April 4th and May 6th, those will be council meetings. We'll have to establish special council meetings.
Is there anything I can do for you?
You probably know where stuff is.
Yeah,
Okay, go on.
Okay, so we're going on to number 16 is the Financial Special Projects Administrator report.
This is in regard, yeah, I had to talk with Kim last night at our economic development meeting, which didn't end up being a meeting. But yes, those April the 4th, there's an in-person meeting for council from 6 to 8. And then again on May the 6th. I don't know what your schedules are, but maybe I'll have Kim send out an email to make sure that you guys are available if you are or you aren't. And the other thing goes to her recommendation that the council of the township of Schreiber accept a change order from McSweeney and Associates to collect that additional regional data from Manifold. She doesn't state it in here, but I talked to her last night. And what you need to know is that the extra cost for this additional information from Manifold is going to be covered by the grant. It's not separate from the grant, but since it's a change order, she needs to come to mayor and council to get that approved. But the additional money that she requires is still going to be covered under the grant. Because we had more grant than we did cost for our strategic plan.
Okay, so that was gonna be my,
Yeah, no, it's covered.
so that sum of money that
The
is
extra,
still there,
yeah, oh, yes, oh, yes.
so actually contingency then?
Well, it's not really contingency because it falls under the grant application, right? The grant application covers that whole strategic plan criteria, and this additional data is part of the strategic plan.
Okay, great.
Because it's a change to what she had originally sent to us, she needs our approval to go ahead and get it.
No.
But you're right, it's like. It's
It is like it.
Money's there.
The money's there.
That's
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah, that's the part I didn't understand.
I know.
She was saying that it would be,
An additional 1,400.
No, that's
It is,
great.
but it's covered, yeah.
that's great.
No, I asked her last time, because I was
Yeah.
thinking, wait a second, there's money left over.
And them dates are additional to council meetings. April.
Rosalie could probably speak more to that than I can, but I'm thinking that, yes, they are.
April the 4th is a Thursday. May the 6th is a Monday.
Okay.
So. The one on April 4th, that they will be meeting in the afternoon. The consultants will be here starting around noon, and they will be meeting in the afternoon with various focus groups. One will be residents, one will be specifically seniors, another will be for government, fire, EMS, Thunder Bay DSA,
Mhm.
P, MTO, those people. Another session is for health and recreation, 2 separate rooms. They'd be going on at the same time. Tourism and business, and then the committees of council. So those are the focus groups they'll be running in the afternoon, meeting right up until 6 o'clock, sort of back to back. So what Kim is suggesting is that we have some kind of food at this working session, so the consultants can eat something, and council too if they want to.
I wrote down last night for council, 6 to 8 o'clock,
Yes,
That's on April the 4th.
April 4th.
Yeah.
So that's a working session where you'll be doing some priority setting, and then the one on May 6th is from 6 until 9. And that one, you'll be working on action items.
for the strategic plan. And I think Kim's intent was to get emails out today, but with technology problems, that just didn't happen, but she's going to get out stuff to her input groups and her focus groups and to people that she needs to know that they need to know are Jenny. I guess here's the good news. This is moving along quickly. It's awesome.
Mhm.
So in addition to this, members of council and members of staff will be contacted directly by the consultant for an interview beforehand.
Before April 4th.
Which means like in the next couple of weeks.
Mhm.
With no specific date set.
Right.
Okay.
So we're all okay with her adding this additional manifold report?
Well, I definitely think you need it. Okay, move on to communications.
Nice letters about the mill. From different ministries.
Well, there's, yeah, getting back to us, which is great.
Right.
Anybody hear any updates? You said they're pumping.
Yeah, that last I heard anyway, unless they stopped again.
What would they be pumping? They're just,
They just pump the septic tanks from the guard shack.
oh, okay, just septic pumping, okay.
I got a email today. Yeah, whether it's 3 o'clock next Friday with, virtual again with the, Patty and Lee's and Paul and Chief Musquash. Myself. we're not sure what's happening with the meeting up at Long Black. On the 17th, I believe it is, next Tuesday. Is that okay?
Tuesday is the 19th.
Okay, the 19th then. That we'll have to wait and see, but that can be virtual too.
Okay.
All good, keeping the talk going,
Keeping it front and center, right?
yeah, keeping it.
And for anybody interested, our MVP Lee's will be at Drifter's Restaurant having dinner at 6:30 on Saturday night, and she's invited people to stop. Friday night, sorry, Friday night, and to stop by. I know, that's why I sent that email. Can you clear this up for me? Is this fact? To be able to talk to people if they want to talk to her.
And then she'll also be at the
Seniors Fair.
Living Fair
Yeah.
on Saturday from 10 to.
Yeah.
Okay, any other?
Municipality of St. Charles, that resolution for fixing long-term care amendment act. I don't know, do you guys want to support that?
My understanding is the main focus of the legislation is to prevent married couples from being separated. So if there's space, they'll put a husband in one and a wife in the other, and this is to keep them together till death do us part.
Okay,
That's the primary focus of that legislation. I haven't read it myself, but
want to support that?
Yeah, we could support number 4.
I had a bigger question for number 4 under the libraries is, does Schreiber receive grant money from the Canadian Museum's operating grant?
I wondered that myself too when I read
I
it.
wrote it down and I thought, well, do we get money? We should be getting money. Because we have a museum now.
Yeah.
Our Discovery Center, it's a museum, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good question for Marlene or Linda.
But when I read that, I was like you reading, thinking it was libraries, but when I saw, and museums receive operating money from, and I'm like, wait a second.
And if you read it, I think the township in question gets the maximum and it's 25,000.
I know. So anyways, yes.
Yeah, opportunity.
But yes, there is a need for increased funding for libraries. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So we're going to support the town of Lincoln. Number 4, and we're also supporting number 3, is that right?
Sure, I can.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Can we be really careful with the nuclear free north? Only just because we have received funding from NWMO.
Number 6, we can support, but this was originally came from County of Renfrew,
Yeah,
but we have that. I sent that to you.
It's the second page of
Oh, is it on the second page? So
Mhm.
have the original, I would just suggest we support it.
yes, yeah, I agree.
You okay then? Into unfinished business.
We saved this one to talk to Jan.
Yes, very good.
This is the municipality of Wawa.
Yeah.
Right.
Resolution.
We wanted your thoughts on this.
Well, I took a good read through it. And this might be a little bit lengthy, so
That's okay.
I might ramble. The insurance industry funds their own ratings office, which is the Fire Underwriter Survey in Canada. It's had other names over the years, but they fund it themselves to give geographic places ratings for insurance purposes. And there is no requirement that we meet that insurance offices or that fire underwriter surveys requirements for fire protection or to have 911 systems or water systems or hydrants or fire trucks. That said, about 80% of the insurance industry takes those ratings and calculates your ratings for your house and your business and what your insurance rates are going to be in town. They aren't the only player. There are a couple of minor players in the industry as well that also do ratings. Basically, how those ratings affect us, it's kind of odd. Let's look at a house. They give you a rating from 1 to 5. 1 is great. 5 is got no protection whatsoever. Out of those 5 levels, to be a 1, you have to have a paid fire department. To be a level 2, you have to have a part-time fire department with some full-time staff, which completely eliminates places like Wawa and Schreiber. To be a level 3, you have a volunteer department. 4, you have to have tanker trucks, which we don't have. And 5 means ineffective or none. So out of those 5 ratings, we're either a 3 or a 5 all the time. There's no other possibilities in their system. So we always attempt to be a 3. So that said, they take that rating and then they kind of look at how big your town is. And here's where most towns have an issue is the insurance industry defines a medium-sized town or city as 1,000 people or above, which puts us in the medium-sized category constantly. A small town is less than 1,000 people. So they take that, and what they say is, for a small town, less than 1,000 people, your trucks can be a maximum of 20 years old. And then you can use them for another 10 years for a maximum of 30, but that 10 years has to be in the reserve or second line role. For a medium-sized town where Schreiber or Wawa would fit, they only recommend you use a truck for 15 years and replace it. Because they don't consider a truck that reaches its maximum age as reliable anymore. So they won't give you an insurance credit for it. So where we fit in there right now is we attempt to have, and we don't quite follow them completely either. We attempt to have one truck that is 20 years of age or less as our frontline fire protection fire pump. And we keep that truck tucked away safe in town, and it doesn't go out into the highway very often. And then where we differ greatly is we then take that truck and we move it into a second line role for about another 20 years. We've never gotten rid of a truck around here till it hits 40 years of age.
Okay.
So, which is significantly longer than what they recommend. Now going to Wawa, they've got a population of 3,600. They've got a very similar sized fire department fleet, but their average truck is about 8 to 10 years older than ours. Their newest truck is hit the 20-year-old. It's a 2004, which is why I think they've kind of put this resolution request together. I really couldn't speak as far as their truck replacement schedule or asset replacements or if they have a reserve fund for this sort of thing, but I suspect that's why you're seeing this resolution come from them. I think we could well be in the same spot they're in 7, 8 years from now, when our truck reaches its expiry date. And that said, we talked 2 years ago about looking at used trucks that weren't brand new, but still had a significant life left in them.
Right.
So I think their resolution is somewhat asking the insurance industry to change their own standards. I don't know how successful they'll be with that. The one part about asking the province for more funding towards trucks, could be very useful. As far as asking the insurance industry to change their own rating system to the benefit of a town that wants to run old trucks, don't know how successful that will be.
But in your opinion, Jen, because, because we're a small community, do our equipment get as much wear and tear on them as the community 5 times the size or 10 times the size? Like, we can keep our equipment in good shape because we're smaller. We have a lot of equipment, but
Yeah, we do have a fair bit of equipment and it is in pretty good shape and it is significantly newer, like I mentioned. It's a hard call as to whether or not it gets more or less wear and tear.
Yeah.
Certainly our trucks do less fires. Age, of course, is a huge thing when you're dealing with rubber gaskets and
Right.
things like that and hoses that degrade over time. I will say that even at 114 calls, do more calls than some towns 3-4 times our size. And we do drive farther with those trucks down highways, east and west, than most small towns do
that's because we're located right on.
where we are.
Yes.
So I really can't say that our trucks are
Yeah.
need less wear and tear.
So from everything that you've read and you've talked to us about, is it your recommendation that we support this resolution?
I think that supporting it would, at least if the province were to find, funding for small towns to purchase equipment, it would probably be a good thing. I don't think we'll be successful in asking the province to ask the insurance industry to change their end of things.
Right.
But it's certainly not going to hurt you to ask.
Okay.
Good, we will.
Okay.
That's the answer.
Yeah. All right then.
Thanks, Jen.
We will support that.
For that, Jen. So that was the only thing under unfinished business, and so that's the end of the open part of the meeting. So resolution 67-24. Moved by Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Burgeau. That the closed meeting resume at this time. All those in favor?